In a small Bavarian village where the rolling rivers gleam, lived the blacksmith Gunther Schmidt with his bold and daring dream. He left his home and family, seeking fortune in the West, to forge his name in iron, to fulfill his lifelong quest. With a hammer in his hand and his bratwurst by his side, he set sail for new horizons. His heart is only guide. He's the blacksmith of Bavaria, with a hammer and a gun, forging horseshoes and making bratwurst under the setting sun. A gunfighter, a bratwurstmeister, his mastery expressed. Oh, Gunther's guns and big plump bratwurst, it's the legend of the West. Across the vast Atlantic to the dusty Texas plains, Gunther set up his forge and grill, his creativity unrestrained. In a town of weary cowboys where the prairie winds would blow, he hammered out the horseshoes with a fiery, steady glow. And when the day was done, by the campfire's gentle light, he'd grill his famous bratwurst, bringing warmth back to the night. He's the blacksmith of Bavaria, with a hammer and a gun, forging horseshoes and making bratwurst under the setting sun. A gunfighter, a bratwurstmeister, his mastery expressed. Oh, Gunther's guns and big plump bratwurst, it's the legend of the West. The cowboys came from miles around for the meal they'd never known, to taste the Germans' bratwurst as the legends had all grown. He'd tell them tales of Bavaria with a proud look in his eyes, of rivers, forests, castles beneath clear blue Deutschland sky. They'd listen to all his stories as the stars began to crest, and toast the man who braved it all to survive the Wild West. He's the blacksmith of Bavaria, with a hammer and a gun, forging horseshoes and making bratwurst under the setting sun. A gunfighter, a bratwurstmeister, his mastery expressed. Oh, Gunther's guns and big plump bratwurst, it's the legend of the West. But in those dangerous, lawless towns, sometimes the hammer was set aside. Gunther's aim earned its own fame from tanning many an outlaw's hide. By day it was forging steel, discipline and a steady hand, but at night he was a quick draw those outlaws couldn't withstand. Killer gunfire and killer sausage, tales of his wild shooting spread, and Gunther's deadly dose of bullets never got a bounty on his head. He's the blacksmith of Bavaria, with a hammer and a gun, forging horseshoes and making bratwurst under the setting sun. A gunfighter, a bratwurstmeister, his mastery expressed. Gunther's guns and big plump bratwurst, it's the legend of the West. In the twilight of his long years, with a wisdom that aged like wine, old Gunther found a kindred spirit, a young boy from the Comanche line. And that lad watched Gunther closely with his eager and hopeful heart. He learned the ways of sausage craft, truly connecting with Gunther's art. And with blacksmithing not so much, he couldn't take the forger's heat. but he mastered cooking big plump links, so they focused on grilling meat. He's the blacksmith of Bavaria, with a hammer and a gun, forging horseshoes and making bratwurst under the setting sun. A gunfighter, a wurstmeister, his mastery expressed. Gunther's guns and big plump bratwurst, it's the legend of the West. He's the blacksmith of Bavaria, with a hammer and a gun, forging horseshoes and making bratwurst under the setting sun. A gunfighter, a wurstmeister, his mastery expressed. Gunther's guns and big plump bratwurst, it's the legend of the West.